welcome to SR Concepts. I am Ravi Verma, and in this video I am going to start the chapter number 8. The title of the chapter is Cell Structure and Function from your NCERT textbook of science for class 8th. And I have made some notes for this video. These are based on all the content of the chapter given in NCERT textbook. So what we are going to start? We are going to start the topic, what is cell? So first of all, what is cell? Cell is the structural and functional unit of living organisms. So dear students, you look around in your environment, a number of living organisms are there. Every living organism is made up of cells. The cells are actually just like bricks. They can be compared to the bricks, as a very large number of small bricks assembled together to make a wall like this, as shown in this picture, right? In the same way, a very large number of very small cells, very small units join together to make the body of a living organism. So when you will see onion peel, a membrane, a part of onion, a membrane of onion, when you will see the membrane of onion or the onion peel under a microscope, you will see that it is made up of a very large number of small units. These small units are cells. So we can say that this is the structural unit of life, and body of every living organism is made up of cells. Okay, now the question is, why the cell is called basic unit of life? The cell is called structural unit of life because body of every living organism is made up of one or more cells. So because the structure of the body of every living organism is made up of cells, this is why the cells are called building blocks of life or structural unit of cells. Okay, the cell is also called functional unit of life. Why? Because in a body of a living organism, the cells perform all life functions required for survival of an organism, like growth, reproduction, and respiration. So dear students, you know that every living organism has life, and life is because of certain functions which are performed in its body. For example, a living organism performs respiration, performs growth, and reproduction. So these are called life functions or features of life. So in body of a living organism, for example, if we talk about human being, then these functions in human being's body are done by cells. So all life functions of a living organism's body are done by the cells of the body. This is why the cells are called functional unit of life. Okay, now if we talk about how the cell was discovered. So dear students, I am teaching you exactly in the sequence as given in your NCERT textbook in this chapter. So the next topic that is discussed in NCERT chapter is the discovery of cell, how the cell was discovered. So he was a scientist, Robert Hooke. He discovered the cells in 1665. He observed the cells for the first time. What he did actually, dear students, at that time the corks or the caps of the bottles were made up of the bark of a tree known as oak tree, right? So what he did, he took a bottle cap made up of bark of the tree and he cut it into very thin slices with the help of a blade. And then he observed the thin slices of the cork, that is called bottle cork, right? So he observed thin slices of bottle cork under microscope with the help of microscope, and when he observed them, he saw many compartments like this, hexagonal empty compartments like this. These actually resembled a honeycomb structure. This picture is actually of honeycomb, right? So when he observed under the microscope a thin slice of cork of the bottle, he saw certain structures which resembled a honeycomb. Here you can see actually this type of observation was there under the microscope. So he named them cells. he named them cells, because cell means empty space. Cell means empty space, right? The meaning of the word cell is empty space. So this is how actually Robert Hooke observed the dead cells, right? So we can say actually that the cell was discovered by Robert Hooke when he was observing the thin slices of the bottle cork made up of the bark of the Spanish oak tree, right? And he observed the structures which resembled the honeycomb. Okay, so who discovered the cell? Robert Hooke discovered the cell. Okay, now how do scientists observe and study living cells? So scientists study the living cells, but how do they see the cells? Actually, cells are very small in size, they are microscopic. You have studied in chapter 2 that microorganisms can be seen with the help of a microscope. In the same way, most of the cells are so much small that they can be seen only with the help of a microscope. So dear students, the scientists use microscopes which magnify the objects, means which show the objects bigger than they actually are, right? Certain dyes are used to color the parts of the cell to study the detailed structure. So sometimes when we want to observe the cells of certain living thing, right, we generally color them. We generally color the sample, then we observe under microscope. These colors are actually dyes, they are also called stains. For example, if you want to study the onion cells in an onion peel, right, then we will color it with the help of a dye known as safranin. We will use the dye safranin. Okay, now the next topic that has been discussed in your NCERT textbook is number of cells. So dear students, the bodies of different organisms may be made up of one or more number of cells. Human body has trillions of cells which vary in shapes and sizes. Trillion is a very big number. It is a very large number, millions, billions, and then comes trillions, right? Okay, so human body contains a very large number of cells, and many of the cells are different in size and shape and functions. Okay, so there are, depending on the number of cells, there are two types of living organisms. One are those in which the body is made up of only one cell. They are called unicellular organisms. The organisms made up of only a single cell are called unicellular organisms. The examples are bacteria, amoeba, and paramecium. These diagrams are given in your NCERT textbook. Open your NCERT textbook and look at the diagrams. Okay, a single-celled organisms like amoeba. A single-celled organism like amoeba captures and digests food, respires, excretes, grows, reproduces. These all functions are done by a single cell in a unicellular organism. So dear students, if an organism has just a single cell, that doesn't mean that it will not be able to perform its function. Actually, a single cell can perform all those functions which are required to remain living, which are required for life. So here you can see that amoeba, which is a unicellular organism, can perform all of its function like capturing of food, digesting of food, respiration, excretion, growth, and reproduction. Okay, now if we talk about multicellular organisms, these are those organisms, multicellular organisms are those organisms who have more than one cell, means actually multiple of the cells are there in their body, so that's why they are called multicellular organisms. And there are many examples of multicellular organisms like human being, dog, earthworm, right, fungi, algae, a number of, actually most of the organisms which you can see with your naked eyes are made up of multiple cells, and they are called multicellular organisms. So the plants, right, the plants, the trees, the herbs, the shrubs, right, and the mosses, right, the small insects, they all are the examples of multicellular organisms. Dear students, a multicellular organism also starts its life with a single cell only. Initially, in a multicellular organism, there is only a single cell, which is the fertilized egg cell. You have means we will be discussing reproduction in organisms, right? During sexual reproduction, a sperm fuses with the egg, or a male gamete fuses with a female gamete and makes a zygote. So every multicellular organism starts its life with a single cell, means initially it is a single cell only. Then the cell divides and makes new cells. Then the new cells divide again to make new cells. In this way, the body of a multicellular organism becomes multicellular. Initially, it is unicellular, but then it becomes multicellular. So, human body, which has trillions of the cell, all the trillions of the cell have developed or have been originated from a single cell, that was the fertilized egg cell. Okay. So dear students, what happens in a multicellular organism? All cells do not perform all functions. You will see that muscle cells perform the function of movement of the body. Red blood cells perform the function of carrying oxygen, right? In the same way, we talk about heart cells, right? They are performing different function. In the same way, we talk about nerve cells. They perform the function of carrying information from one place to another place. So here you see that a multicellular organism may have different cells with different functions. Actually, what happens? There are a number of functions to be performed in the body of a multicellular organism. So the functions are divided to groups of cells. The functions are divided to groups of cells. Such groups of cells which perform a particular function are called tissues. So what are tissues? You can say that in a multicellular organism, each function is done by a separate group of cells specialized to perform that function. Right? Such a group of cell is called tissue. For example, muscle tissue is for movement of body. So because muscle tissue is actually a group of muscle cells, all muscle cells are specialized, or they have some specialization for performing movement, right? So if all the body all the cells of the body are given this function, then the function will not be done efficiently. But you know that muscle cells will have only one function to perform, that is movement of the body, so they will do this function very efficiently. So this is called division of labor, means when the labor or when the functions are divided into different groups or different components of the cell. So dear students, what are tissues? What tissues are specialized groups of cells. Every group of cell performs a particular function. Such a group of cell is called tissue. So many cells combine together to make a tissue. Okay, now we talk about organ. Now when the body becomes very complex, then certain tissues make groups and start performing a particular function. Such a group of tissues is called organ. So we can say that cells make groups, these groups perform a particular function, and then they are called tissues. Now certain tissues make groups and start performing particular functions, they are called organs. In the same way, certain organs together perform some big particular function. So when some organs together perform a particular function, then that group of organs is called organ system. Organ system. So this can be understood by the help of this diagram. Here you can see, dear students, many cells together combine to make a tissue. This tissue will perform a particular function. For example, nervous tissue performs the function of carrying information. Muscle tissue performs the movement of the cell. Blood performs carrying of oxygen. Okay, then multiple tissues combine together to make a particular structure, and that particular structure is performing a particular function. For example, multiple tissues assembled made group and form a stomach. Now this stomach is performing the function of storing the food and digesting the food. So this is an organ, right? Now when the body becomes more complex, right, when the organism's body is more complex, then certain organs make a group. For example, liver, stomach, pancreas, gallbladder, intestine, small intestine, rectum, these all organs together make a group and perform a very big function, that is digestion of the food and absorption of the food. So this is why this whole set of organisms, this whole set of organs, this whole group of organ will be called organ system. So there may be many organs in the body, there may be many organ systems also. For example, there is digestive system, there is excretory system, there is urinogenital system, right? There is respiratory system, there is nervous system, there is endocrine system in human body, right? So there are multiple groups of organs, every group of organ performing a particular function. Okay. Now, next topic that has been discussed in your NCERT textbook is size of the cell. So, dear students, in body of a living organism, the cells may be of different sizes. For example, nerve cell in human body is very long, but RBC is just a very small cell, only 7 micrometer in size. Okay, in the same way, egg cell has some different size, right? Not only the size is different, but shapes of the cells are also different in the same organism. Now, if we talk about different organisms, then in different organisms, there are different shapes of cells, there are different sizes of the cells. If we talk about the smallest cell, right, the smallest cell is 0.1 to 0.5 micrometer in a bacteria. The name of that bacteria is mycoplasma, right? That is mycoplasma, right? So mycoplasma actually a very different type of category of bacteria, actually that is prokaryotic cell, right? So the smallest cell is mycoplasma, that is also called PPLO, and the size is just 0.1 to 0.5 micrometer. If we talk about largest cell in animals, then it is ostrich egg cell, or the egg of an ostrich. This is the largest animal cell, having a size around 170 millimeter in length and 130 millimeter in diameter. If we talk about the largest plant cell, then it is acetabularia that may grow up to 10 centimeters, right? So you can see there is a very large range of sizes of the cell. On one side they are only 0.1 micrometer, and 1 micrometer is actually 1 meter divided by 10 to the power 6, right? So on one side the cells are very small like bacteria and mycoplasma. On the other side the cells are very large. For example, nerve cell having meters of length, right? And ostrich egg having 170 millimeters, that is around 17 centimeters in the diameter or the length. Okay, now we talk about shape of the cell, then shapes are also different. For example, the shape may be star like, long fiber like, tube like, right? Rod like, circular, rounded, egg shaped, even cable shaped, fiber shaped cells are there, right? So there are different shapes of the cells in different organisms and in the same organism also, right? But dear students, here something conceptual that we need to know is that there is a relation between shape of the cell and function of the cell. Always there is a relation between the shape of the cell and function of the cell. The cell has the function which is suitable, the cell has a shape which is suitable for its function. Means the type of function determines what type of shape of the cell will be. For example, if we talk about RBC, then RBCs have a shape of disc-like shape, biconcave disc-like shape, having diffraction from both above and downward side, right? So RBCs are disc shaped. Why they are disc shaped? Why they have this shape? Because they have to perform a very special function that is the transport of oxygen inside the body, right? In order to transport oxygen, it needs a larger surface area, so that more amount of oxygen can bind in it. So in order to increase the surface area, it becomes disc-like. Okay. Now another example of relation between the function of the cell and shape of the cell is nerve cell. If we talk about nerve cell, then it has long fiber-like shapes. There are long fibers, right? These are just like cable. Why they are fiber like, why they are cable like, why they are thread like cells? Because they have to perform a function like a cable. Their function is to transport information from one place to another place in the body, right? From one place to another place in the body. So because they have to perform a cable like function, that is carrying information from one place to another place, that's why they have a cable like shape, they have a long thread like shape, right? So dear students, the shape of the cell generally depends upon the function of the cell. Not only the shape, but size of the cell also depends on the function of the cell. So dear students, this is all about the shape and size of the cell, right? I hope you will learn the concepts by watching this video. We are going to discuss the next topic in the next video, that is the structure of the cell, in the next video or the second part of this chapter, because already the video has become very long. So please watch this video at least twice, right? So that you will learn the concept very well. Thank you so much for watching the video.